Van was waiting for Tay in front of the main gate of the school as he told her. Van was struggling to get rid of the intense staring of Tay. Her heart started pounding as she had no idea what would going to be happen with her. She wasn't ready to take off her in front of a man in a lighted room, the man whom she asked to get married. Though she wanted to be in that relationship, but a few moments ago she had just lost her to the very same person. She remembered how she had told him that she hadn't saved her for him, though she knew she lied. She just didn't want to be looked down upon by him at that moment for being introvert, for not having to be exact, not being in a relationship, not being able to be in a relationship. She didn't want to be a laughing stock to him desperately, but a few minutes ago, when they embraced her with her very first, indeed, she wanted it. She wasn't forced at all. Somewhere in her mind, she was craving for that, but actually, she didn't know how to respond. She was aware of the fact that her inexperienced self was caught by them. She felt embarrassed. She expected he would make fun of her, but he hadn't. He was smiling, but surprisingly, looking at the smile line, she didn't feel to be teased. She was craving for his warmth, but might be, most probably, she was nervous for that. One was dragged into the reality by the sound of the horn. They was waiting for her inside the car. Kitten, they gestured her to sit on the passenger's seat. Let me help you to fasten the seatbelt. They was about to lean towards the passenger's seat when Van tried to stop him. It's okay, I can do that by myself. I know you can, and you have done it before, but I want to, Van. He leaned towards her to fasten the seatbelt. His fresh, minty breath hit her neckline. Her heart almost skipped a beat when he rolled the belt out of its socket. Using his long, defined fingers, he clasped that with a little click sound. She could hear her heartbeats. To calm herself down when she was about to gulp down her cravings, she felt his soft bear up on her once. Thank you. They almost whispered while securing himself on the driver's seat before igniting the engine. It's okay, I'm your wife. You don't need to thank me, I mean, for these accent kisses. One cleared her throat but didn't dare to look at the handsome man. Thank you for saving your first for me. I know you would prefer to go for a debate, but you know what I mean. I know you have and also shared bed with Lil Min, and only with Lil Min, and that's not gonna be counted. They was using his left hand to control the steering wheel. Fixing his eyes on the road, his right hand searched for one side. I know you are not tired, but I guess we are comfortable enough with each other. Put your head on my shoulder and close your eyes. She silently exhaled before leaning towards him. His fragrance. It's always been divine. She closed her eyes after wrapping her arms around his forearm, placing her head on his shoulder. In the last few days, staying with that introvert woman, they just figured out only one thing. He just needed to feel her free. He had noticed her tendency of getting stiffened. He wanted to make her feel comfortable. He knew he needed immense amount of patience to complete those smaller steps that would lead him to her. He knew if he would ask her about the swelling, she would answer. She would be honest, but she won't be comfortable. She would only be informing when he wanted her to share her problems with him. A small chuckle escaped from his lips as the car was filled with the sound of faint snorts. Her bare neckline was supported by these broad shoulders. The amount of heat transmitted through the thin cotton fabric of his shirt made him aware of her normal body temperature. He sighed in relief as she didn't have a fever. They wanted to surprise her, and he was confused between the two plans: the Ferris wheel or paying visit to the mills, especially Youngi's mom, who always told him to get settled. They thought for a moment. Going to the amusement park, it would be a dream come true moment, one of those childhood dreams. But Van was recovering from fever, so he actually couldn't take the risk in the name of surprise cause they would need to do a lot of walking. It was Sunday evening and one would have to attend the med school on the very next day. Going to meet the Mills was a good option, but they needed to go for a shopping to buy gifts for them, and they realized they were short on time. Should I book a driver? He mumbled as he was too tired to drive back to Seoul. And of course, he didn't want to miss the opportunity to make the night drive back memorable. Yet, he didn't want to disturb the lady. After planning and cancelling many plans, hungry they stopped his car in front of his mom's house. The sudden jolt woke Van up. She opened her eyes and slowly detached her tangled arms from his torso. Of course, there was a valid reason for him to make random plans as his mind wanted to with her, wanted to fill her soft milky body. The inquisitive mind of a gynaec and the urge of a husband were perfectly emulsified. It's almost night. She took her phone and checked the time. I think I should submit an absence request for tomorrow, she sighed. We're going back to Seoul tonight. They leaned to unclasp the seatbelt and, as expected, Van hold her breath. Breathe, kitten. They inhaled her scent while unclasping the seatbelt. Of course, he wanted to Van feel free, but he loved how his small moves left her in a mental mess. Her little stammering swell conversations after that. He felt kind of addicted towards these actions of her. Van followed him as he got out of the car. Let's have a quick goodbye dinner with mom, and then we will go back to Seoul. Van scratched her scalp a little. Actually, I don't think I will be able to drive for that long. At night, after dinner, I have booked a driver, don't worry. You don't have to drive, wifey. He casually poked her cheeks with his gentle fingers before knocking on the door. Lady Kim opened the door with a wide smile on her face. She was free on that night. She completed all her works as the mother wanted to enjoy the dinner with home cooked meal specially prepared by her. Welcome home, she greeted. Taehyung and Van both smiled and nodded while taking off their shoes. The delicious aroma of food hit their nostrils. One was a foodie when it comes to her favorite food, and coincidentally, Mrs. Kim had prepared samgyeopsal for the dinner. I can't submit an application for leave of absence. Please stay here tonight. I want to enjoy the food your mom had prepared. Can't we cancel the plan? When whined while searching for the slippers in the shoe cabinet. Am I restricting you from enjoying the food? Have I told you to not to eat? But who told you that you can bunk your classes tomorrow? They looked at her and playfully raised his eyebrows. Go, get changed. Don't take forever to do a single chores. Lady Kim was getting impulsive, so she tried to scold them, but her tone was soft and warm. They found the opportunity he was searching for. Okay, we will stay here tonight, but promise me, you are going to open up with me about the swelling. I hope we are going to have a good conversation. Taehyung was blunt. He just told in words what he wanted to say, what was revolving in his mind. He was tensed about her health as a doctor, yet as a husband, his mind wanted to refuse the spiritual form of love. Well, looked at them. The small eye contact with him was enough for her to understand what he wanted. She goosebumped as her feminine urge also wanted to incorporate, but she wanted to run away. though there was no reason to do so, though she wanted to feel his warmth on her cold under some random source of light. Van went to the washroom first to get changed into one of Tehang's t-shirt and lunch pants. It was a little oversized with faint smell of tea. She stepped out of the washroom as soon as possible and went to the dining area to help Lady Kim to serve the dinner. They took a few minutes to wash off the stress. Only having a good shower could rinse the tiredness off, but still he needed to rush for the dinner. He quickly got out of the washroom with messy wet hair. Hopping into a comfy trousers, he joined the ladies at the dining area. The Lady Kim wanted to scold her son for his dripping wet hair, but she paused as she realized they wanted to have dinner together. Sit beside Van, she instructed while serving the side dishes. Mom, thank you for the dinner. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to cook dinner for us. They looked at his mom before taking the first bite. She has class in the morning. We will go after the dinner, and don't worry, I have booked a driver. Mrs. Kim looked at Van. Her smile was faded. She didn't fail to notice how excited she was seeing the Samgyeopsal. Well, she can't get a day off? I mean, she was sick? Mrs. Kim literally stammered. As a divorce lawyer, she had always pushed herself. She barely took a day off and she was guilty for what she had asked for. They looked at Van. She can get a day off, but I guess the professors won't get the chance to repeat those classes. If one wants to be best, one needs to do many sacrifices. I don't think nobody knows this better than you, Mom. One sighed before shoving the food trapped between the chopsticks. After the dinner, Mrs. Kim didn't want them to go back, but she didn't want to argue with them, as it was about Van's studies. She was just a little worried for them. She packed some food for them. They and Van stepped out of the bedroom and saw Mrs. Kim had already packed a lot of food in different containers. Van, are you going to wear this t-shirt? Van looked at the floor mainly in embarrassment but pretended like she was busy to slip into her shoes. Actually, I will go to the dorm to take my luggage tomorrow. Hmm? Van tried to explain her situation. Mrs. Kim smiled and looked at Tay. Son, will you mind if I and Van plan to go for shopping after her classes? They literally glared at Mrs. Kim while taking the food containers. You don't need to ask me when I'm not included in your plan. His phone vibrated inside his pocket. Looking at the ID, he smiled. Bye, Mom. Don't forget to take Van for shopping as you promised. Mrs. Kim nodded and waved her hand as they and Van bid her goodbye. Who's gonna drive the car? Van was surprised hearing the familiar voice. It was Yoongi. Oppa? Van sighed in relief. Skipper. They was about to occupy the driver's seat. She had fever last night. Moreover, she would have to attend classes tomorrow morning. Go and sit with her on the back seat. Yoongi told the younger in a stern voice. Don't argue, Teham. Go and sit. They didn't argue and, being obedient, he opened the door of the back seat. Yoongi ignited the engine. Teham, don't even think to. Yoongi wanted to tease the new couple, but they stopped him by clearing his throat. Young? What young? I'm just defining the rules for the passengers of my car. Yoongi wasn't in the mood to stop teasing Tae, but soon he realized he must not cross his limits, as it was his Lil Goyangi, crowned as Mrs. Kim. He cleared his throat and fixed his eyes on the road. Goyangi, be comfortable. Tehang, what are you doing? Help her. Nay. Wen tried to gulp down the awkwardness. She was about to recline on the seat when she felt a warm arm around her waist. She was slowly dragged towards Tae. Close your eyes. he almost whispered while kept patting on her shoulder. Indeed, she was told to close her eyes, but her eyes were open. She wanted to hide her heartbeat as it was pounding. But after some time, she started being comfortable in his embrace. She eventually closed her eyes, and her breathing pattern confirmed that she was already asleep. Taehyung, I apologize on behalf of Van. She might behave a little immature, but that's not her fault actually. Yoongi kept his vision focused on the road. Taehyung looked at Yoongi. Hyung, what are you saying? No, she is not immature, but she needs to learn many things. So am I. Why are you apologizing out of blue? You are looking tensed. I mean, you are not looking happy, and I guarantee this is not the stress from work, Yoongi asserted, lowering his tone. Actually, I don't know how to tell you. I was demonstrating the self-exam and not properly, yet it seemed like I was doing it properly, and I felt I'm still not sure whether it was a button or something, but I felt some kind of swelling, and they stammered. And Yoongi was expecting more from they. What changes did you notice? They remained silent while Yoongi was waiting for his reply. Don't tell me they. I thought we can take our time and go slow. They hesitated. Okay, tell me her last date of and what changes have you noticed after? Of course, Yoongi was quite nervous for his little Goyangi, and Tei's answer left him in shock. I don't know. Are you kidding me? Your I don't know is not gonna solve the problem. You are a. I don't know who you are, Taehyung. I didn't expect this from you. You disappointed me, Mom. Yoongi was left with no other choice. Meanwhile, Van readjusted herself in Tae's embrace. Under the dim light, they looked at her sleeping face. I'm sorry. He whispered and tightened his embrace. Till the date, the younger had never admitted his mistake so easily. So, Yoongi frowned before glancing at the back seat. They was carefully cupping Van's face while her whole body was being tucked around his torso. Yoongi chuckled as the younger, who had always been adored by his youngs, was trying to adore his wife. He fixed his eyes on the road before clearing his throat. They looked at Van's face under the dim light of the car. Her brows were frowned, her lips were pouted. He looked at the driver's seat. Ensuring Yoongi's concentration on the road, he quickly pecked on her pouty lips. Soft, he mumbled. Surprisingly, a thin line of smile was visible on her lips. They smiled in wonder. Did she just smile after I pecked on her lips? Did she recognize my touch? He thought. Actually, he kept thinking. The rest of the ride was mostly silent. None of the men initiated to start any conversation as Van was sleeping. They didn't forget to steal pecks whenever he noticed her lips being pouted. The smile line on her lips after every peck was like the rainbow after rain. They felt overwhelmed. Somewhere in the deep in his heart, he didn't want to share this feeling, not even with Van. The car stopped in front of Tae's apartment. Yoongi stretched his arms and yawned after freeing his body from the seatbelts. Need help? He asked Tae, but actually didn't intend to do so, in the back seat. Van slowly opened her eyes and tried to recognize who she was. They also wanted to see her reaction, so he pretended to be asleep, having Van in his embrace. Van slowly moved her face and inhaled his natural scent, gently placed a peck on his neck and slowly tried to detangle herself from Tae's frame. He is all yours, Van. Yoongi's voice made her frozen at a spot. She gulped down the awkwardness and broke Tae's embrace. Van got out of the car and they silently followed her. Yoongi hopped into his driver's seat before the couple could invite him for some refreshing coffee or something. Yoongi ignited the engine and waved his hand. Good night, lovebirds. He didn't forget to tease the couple before leaving. let's go. They tried to hide his smile and stepped towards the lift. One silently followed him. Was he caught? She tried to figure out while stepping inside the apartment. When, don't you think we need to talk? They looked at her while changing his shoes. Tomorrow morning? One suggested, like she was waiting for the question to be asked. They frowned at her desperate attempt of ignoring such a serious matter so casually. He knew Van would definitely try to ignore him, and this time he didn't want to be patient anymore. I'm stinking. I think I should go and get a shower to relax. I need to sleep peacefully before my classes. One cleverly avoided they and went to the washroom. Van didn't know that she was testing and unknowingly had pushed him closer to the limits of his patience. He gulped down the anger. Maximum half an hour. Teham, wait, just wait. She has taken a pretty good nap. It would be impossible for her to sleep. Just wait. They inhaled deeply. Van didn't take too much time in the washroom. Stepping in the bedroom, she saw Tay. Maybe he is waiting for me? What if he asks me to take off my... No. Stop, Van, stop thinking this. Van tried to behave as casual as possible. It was so relaxing. I'm too sleepy. I think I will probably just fall asleep in the bed. They stopped himself from glaring at her, seeing her desperate attempts of ignoring the topic. Set the temperature of the air conditioner and sleep. I'm stinking. I will be late and I have a day off tomorrow. Good night, Van. He stepped into the washroom. Van wasn't wrong. The warm water shower rinsed off the tiredness and relaxed his body. The smell of his favorite body wash helped him to calm down. He was about to unlock the washroom door to step into the bedroom. They silently unlocked the door of the washroom and saw Van wasn't sleeping. She was scrolling down her phone. They silently closed the door and opened the way it should be opened, with a little sound. And they almost lost his control from stop laughing as he saw putting the phone aside when pretending to fall asleep within a moment. They stood beside the bed and leaned towards her frame. You are occupying my side. Move, Van. He gently tapped on her shoulder and she moved. She moved and stepped into his trap. Within a moment, she knew that. Breathe, Van, and don't move. Don't move your eyeballs. Van tried to act calm as possible. They took the next step. He switched off all the lights of the room except the nightstand of Van's side and waited for Van. As expected, Van's eyeballs started moving, sensing the exposure of the light, and a thin line of smile was curved on her face. Time's up. Open your eyes, Van. I know you are not sleeping. I have seen you scrolling down the phone. Come on. They casually told her to end the drama. Van, look at me, please. Tay's voice was soft, comforting. Van turned her face towards him, but her eyes were fixed on the button of his nightdress. Tell me, when did you first notice the swelling? They gently raised his arm and grabbed her waist to drag her almost frozen yet fragile body towards him. After you asked me about the self-exam procedure and I noticed that I was randomly trying to do the self-exam with my clothes on, even I wasn't in front of the mirror. Once toned defiant that she wanted to surrender. I guess you are not on your dates. How are you feeling right now? He made her to look into his eyes. Don't think a gynaec or your professor asking you this question. It's your husband who is a gynecologist and coincidentally your professor. His voice was smooth like butter and one almost melted into his embrace. No, I'm not in my days. Though I have a quite irregular cycle, sometimes it fluctuates, overall it's normal. Have you noticed any kind of change in your. They playfully raised his eyebrows to lighten up the mood, but the way she covered her, he couldn't do anything but frown. He removed the hairs from her face to see her reaction. Don't look away and don't hide anything. It is more painful than you can imagine. I know it's my fault that I keep skipping the exercise from my everyday routine, but half of the month passed like this, the heaviness of the and the cramps. Luckily, the two doesn't appear together. One smiled sadly. Can I have a look? These words made her frozen at a spot. Look at me. Van raised her hands. Help me. She gestured him to take off the oversized t-shirt she was wearing. They gulped down before fisting the handful of fabric of her t-shirt and slowly removed it. Do you wear this much tight thing? Looking at the elasticated fabric wrapped around her chest, he raised his eyebrows. It's new, maybe that's why? Wayne tried to find an excuse, but as she felt the touch of his warm palm, she was stopped. She took a small step and hid herself in his chest as he just unclasped her. I have seen you struggling with this. Indeed, it's tight. Let me check the. They kissed her hairs as she had almost hid her frame into his embrace. One could feel something getting. You can check tomorrow morning. Let's sleep. They sighed. He was about to say something when he heard her whisper. It would pain. Please don't. It won't be paining. I won't be harsh at all. Let me check. Please. He requested her in a pleading tone. She gulped down the awkwardness and slowly broke the embrace and raised her arms. Obviously, her eyes were closed. The windows are already closed and all the curtains are down. Can I switch on the light? It's just visual inspection, can I? He kept caressing her long hair. Nay, one almost whispered but couldn't sense the exposure of light. They used his pen torch this time. Though he could switch on the lights, but he didn't want her to feel more discomfortable. Her skin was milky white. There was no visible distortion or swelling. The skin was even. He was about to touch her skin when she panicked. I'm about to get back in some days. Please don't touch. Please. Okay. They guessed it was cyclical, which tends to come and go with cycle. Beside aches and pain, one might be experiencing tenderness and swelling. The way she had closed her eyes, he guessed she was about to achieve her as the symptoms tend to intensify just before the cycle. He gently made her lie down on the bed. Don't put on the elastic cage again. He threatened her in the sweetest tone of his voice. One just turned and laid on her stomach to ease her pain. Definitely it was her own method. They lied down beside her. Are you feeling cold? He gently took her into his embrace and covered their body with a thin blanket. Is it okay? Van quietly snuggled into his embrace and adjusted a little to find the comfortable position. I wish I had a day off tomorrow. Life is not easy, Van. It has never been easy for the prince. It has never been easy for the princess, too. We are just two normal people, and there's nothing called free lunch. Try to understand, kitten. I know it's hard to get the chance into a med school. I know it's harder to continue the study, but believe me, it will be more and more hard when you will be a full fledged doctor. But believe me, you need to be fortunate enough to be busy, and you have to be skillful to be busy in life. Don't think I'm forcing you, and I won't. Taehyung stopped as the room was filled with snuffed snores. Sleep tight, Van. He pecked on her forehead and closed his eyes.